Shevuot, Daf Yomi Shevuot, the Overture to Masechta Shavuot. What is an oath? Seder Yeshuot. We start the new Masechta today, Masechta of Shavuot. It has nothing to do with the festival of Shavuot, although strangely enough, it has 49 pages, and we're learning it in the period between Pesach and Shavuot, during the 49 days of the counting of Sfirat HaOmer. Just one of these very strange occurrences. Shavuot is about oaths. I had an interesting experience this morning. These experiences always sound weird, so mostly I don't share them with you. But sometimes I have to, because I have these experiences because of you. It's in your zchut, both those who are learning here and those who are learning from the distance, that I have these things. I'd prepared the outline of the shiur last night. I've been very scared about Masechta Shavuos because I've had no connection with it previously. Somehow I've just never come across it. I just haven't touched it previously, so it's a completely new experience, and that's always very scary. So yesterday and last night I'm getting into it, and I've got an outline prepared for the shiur. This morning I walk into my study and I get the shock of my life. There's the Chidushei Arim sitting in my study. Now, by the way, when I say that, it's not physically. He wasn't physically in my study. His energy is in the study, and he's got a beautiful face, and he says to me, "You're struggling with this new Masechta. I can see where you're going. You spoke very nicely about my grandson on Shabbos in the Medrash shiur. You taught a piece of Imrei Emes, and I want to help you. I want to help you get started. You're on the wrong track." And he says, "You're on the wrong track because you're not starting with first principles. You're starting a new Masechta. You're scared of it. You don't know what's going on. Start with first principles." And first principles usually start with a new Masechta, he tells me, with the first Tosfos on the Masechta. First Tosfos usually talks about why this Masechta is placed in this particular position, why do the words start with these. That's where you start with the first principles. He says, let's start with the Psukim. So we look at the Chumash, and we have a set of Psukim in Parshas Vayikra on which our Mishna is based. This is the most weirdly structured Mishna, I think, in Shas. And it's based on these Psukim. The Psukim in Parshas Vayikra tell us, if you know evidence and you don't come to Beis Din when you're called, or if you become tameh, you become spiritually contaminated, and then you eat kodshim, you eat holy food from the Beis HaMikdash, from a korbanot, or you walk into the Beit HaMikdash in your contaminated state, or you made a false shvuah, false oath. Shvuot means oaths. That's what we're learning about. You made a false oath. In all of these cases, there's a very unique korban. It's called a korban oleh v'yored. Korban oleh v'yored means you bring minatzon, you bring a female lamb or goat. If you can't afford a female lamb or goat, then you bring 2 pigeons or doves. And if you can't afford 2 pigeons or doves, then you bring flour. We have no other case of a korban. If you can't afford this, then you bring that. Can't afford that, you bring that. Where do we even have? You can't afford an esrog, so bring a lemon. You can't afford a lemon, so bring a plastic lemon. Where do we see such a thing? This is what the halacha is, and that's what you need to afford. It's a very strange korban. It's called a korban oleh v'yored, a korban that goes up and down in its value depending on your income, depending on your wealth. Korban oleh v'yored. And it's for these 3 things specifically. Korban oleh v'yored is for eating kodshim in a state of tumah, for walking into the Beis HaMikdash in a state of tumah, and for a false oath. Why those 3, we'll touch on that and we'll see. And then the Chidushei Arim says to him, the Chidushei Arim is the founder of Geireh Hasidus. We've spoken about him before, the father of the great Sfas Emes, and the grandfather of the Imrei Emes, Talmud of the Kotzker Rebbe, and others. So let's start at the beginning with where do oaths come from? What is an oath? Lo tisa et shem Hashem Elokecha lashav. We're told in the Aseret HaDibros, in the 10 Commandments, do not take Hashem's name in vain. Ki lo yenakeh Hashem et asher yisa et shmo lashav, because Hashem will not forgive somebody who takes his name in vain. By the way, this is in the 10 Commandments. It's something to be very careful about. Apart from the area of Shavuot, people are very quick to use God's name. Oh my God, it's an Issur D'Oraisa. It's a serious Issur D'Oraisa. Ki lo yenakeh Hashem. Hashem will not forgive that. That's taking Hashem's name in vain. So one has to be very, very careful. And one hears the children using it very, very easily. One has to be careful. The Targum Onkelos explains the meaning of the pasuk halachically. Lo teimei bishma da Hashem Elokecha lamagana He uses two different words to explain l'shav, taking Hashem's name in vain. One is l'magana and one is l'shikra. And Rabbi Avrom ben Arambam, this is the Rambam's son, writes in his Perush on Chumash, explains unkelus, and he says unkelus means, he says magana means chinam, don't mention God's name unnecessarily. And l'shikra means l'sheker. So he says unkelus combines the two meanings we have in the Gemara for this isur. Don't swear in vain and don't swear falsely is what is covered here. So this idea of an oath is given to us in the Ten Commandments, together with all the other most fundamental principles of the Torah and of the world, of how people interact with each other. One of them is false oaths. Be careful of false or unnecessary oaths. And when we'll see further in the sixth parak of our Masechta, when you have a person in Beis Din and you're telling him we're about to make you take an oath, Omrim lo havi yodea shekol haolam kulo nizdazeh b'shah shamar HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Sinai lo tisad Shem Hashem Elokecha l'shav. There was a global earthquake when Hashem said, don't take my name in vain. The entire globe shuddered when Hashem said that. You need to be aware of that as you're about to take your oath. And every avera in the Torah, it says v'nakeh, you can be cleansed of it. You can be excused of it. V'kan ne'emar lo yenakeh. And here it says Hashem will never excuse you for this. That's what lotisa means. This is one of the most serious halachot in the entire Torah. We tell the person this before they take an oath. That's the origin, says the Chidush Harim to me. That's where we're coming from. This Masechta Shavuos, that's what we're learning about. So I said to him, yes, Chidush Harim are wonderful. I really appreciate it, and we're on to the right track. This is a different experience for me, but that's not what the Mishnah is about, and it's not what the first two prokim are about. The Mishnah starts off saying, Shavuot Shtaim Shehen Arba. There are two types of Shavuot in the Torah, and you can extrapolate another two, which makes a total of 4. Yediot, and there are other things like that, where there are 2 in the Torah and you can extrapolate to 4. Yediot HaTumah, coming into the Beis HaMikdash, or eating kodshim when you are in a state of Tumah and you're not aware of that. Yetziot HaShabbat, you walk into Rishus HaRabim, or you carry something from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabim, or Rishus HaRabim from public to private domain, or private to public domain on Shabbat. Shtayim Shehen Arba, 2 in the Torah and 2 are extrapolated. Marot Negaim, the case of a person has a spot which is not sure whether it's Tomei or not, the Kohen has to decide. Shnaim Shehen Arba, there are 2 cases which are 4. Then the Mishnah goes on. Et sheyesh ba yediyah b'tchila v'yediyah b'sof. The Mishnah goes on explaining the laws of Tumah. Ve'alem b'nazem hareze ba'oila v'yored. There's a korban of oila v'yored. And the next 2 prokim we're talking about Tumah. So don't tell me this. What we're talking about is Lotisa Shem Hashem. That's almost in passing. The Mishnah mentions 2 words of it in the beginning and then goes off on a 2-chapter deviation dealing with Tumah. He says, calm down. Let's have a look at it. Let's learn the Tosfos. So asks Tosfos, asks Tosfos, okay, I understand this Mishnah is based on the psukim that we learnt, where there are 3 things for which there's a korban oila v'yored. The first things for which there's a korban oila v'yored, the first 2 it brings are areas of kodshim. You go into the Beis HaMikdash without being tahor, or you eat kodshim without being tahor. Then at the end it says, or nefesh ki tishba, and the third case is Shavuot. Asks Tosfos, so follow the psukim. Start with Tumah, that's the source of it. And from Tumah we get to the laws of Shavuot. Why do we start with Shavuot Shtaim Shem Arba? Says the Chidush Harim to me, that's a question. Why is it even called Shavuos? Why do we start with Shavuos? That's not what it's about. V'yesh loma, and Tosfos answers, Dishvuot hu ikar ha'masechet. It's true that we're going to have two prokim of deviation, but the root of this Masechta is Shavuot, oaths. De beseder Yeshuot kai, because this is the seder of Yeshuas, of salvation. Is that right? I thought this was Nezikin we were in. V'agav Shevuot tani yediyat mishum degabi hadad iktivan. And Shavuos is part of Yeshua's. And once we're talking about Shavuos, in the Posuk, it comes together with Tumah. We don't have special Masechtas in Gemara for Tumah and Tara, for spiritual contamination and purity. It's woven into the other Masechtas, and this is one of those Masechtas. So because in the Psukim, in the verses in the Chumash, in Parashas Vayikra, they're packaged together in the laws of the Korban Oleva Yored, that's why we deal with that here. But really, this is about Shavuos because we're in Seder Yeshuos. What does all that mean? So there's a posuk in Yeshayahu, V'haya emunat itecha. If you want to preserve your good times, chosen yeshuot, chokhmah v'dat, then the preservation of these good periods is knowledge and wisdom, and yiras Hashem hi otzorah. And yiras Hashem most of all. That's what Yeshayahu says. Says Reish Lakish in Gemara Shabbos, this posuk emunat, what does it say? These are the things you need to do in order to preserve your good times. Emunat ze seder zroim. Emunat is referring to the first set of Shas. Zroim. Itecha ze seder moed. Chosin ze seder noshim, for various reasons. The one we're interested in is Yeshuot ze seder nezikin. Nezikin is called Yeshuas. Says the Chidush Ha'arim to me. That's what you need to focus on. That's in the first Tosfos. This is about Yeshuas, because that will explain everything. Now I'm really puzzled. And I'm watching the watch already. It's getting close to having to come to the shir, and I don't know what's going on. It says Rashi, Seder Nezikin, Moshi'an. Seder Nezikin saves people. Mazhir lifrosh mehezek u'mitchayev mamon. It saves people from one another, from harming one another, and from being obligated to pay money to one another. It saves social engagement. If you're going to engage socially in the world, you're going to be at risk. If you're going to sit in a cave your entire life and learn Torah, you're not at risk. But if you're going to engage in the world, you're going to get into the world of business, you're at risk. And this is Nezikin, is Yeshuot. It's the way to be saved from the risks of human engagement. That's what Yeshuot is. Now says the Chidush Ha'arim. Now let's learn. Now we've got the background. Now let's learn. And here's the piece of Chidush Ha'arim. And he asks, let's learn it through together. Why doesn't it say Shvuot Bitu? We will see there are many different kinds of Shvuot. There are oaths that the judges impose upon you. There are oaths you take because you're denying responsibility for being accused of stealing a security that you were given. And the Shvuot Bitu, you just decide to make an oath to say, I swear this is going to happen. People say it all the time, which is a terrible thing. Why doesn't it say here we're talking about Shvuot Bitu? We're talking about the Shavuot, the oath which a person takes upon himself. That's what happens all over the Gemara. There's another question, he says. Now it's time for your question, says the Chidush Ha'arim to me. Why do you start with a 2 which extrapolate to 4? That leads you into talking about Tumah, and then you've got 2 prokim of Tumah. What's this all about? Why are you going there? This is called Seder Yeshuot. The 3 bavas, bava kama, bava mitzia, bava basra, talk about being saved from damage. And when you do damage, you're saved by paying for the damage, by compensating. And the nizak is saved from being oppressed by the damager. And then you've got Sanhedrin, which are the 4 deaths of Beis Din, which cause fear of punishment, which helps you, we've discussed that before in Sanhedrin and in Makos, it helps you overcome your Yetzer Hara. It's a tool, the fear of punishment is a tool to manage your instinctual drives. Yes, I have an instinctual drive to do X, but I'm afraid of the punishment, so it's a tool that helps you manage. That's not the reason to do or not to do. We've dealt with higher things than that. But it's there as a tool to help you. And if you did sin, you're saved in Olam Haba. We spoke about that just a short while ago. Your neshama is saved. You've lost your guf, you've lost your body, but at least your soul is saved. It's all about saving. It's all about security. V'im lo shav noshak Klal Yisrael. And if you didn't do tshuva, at least Klal Yisrael is saved. Al yedei bir hara, because they've got rid of your bad influence. V'chein makot lokin v'golimu mitkapel lo v'nosham. Masechta Makos is about being saved from your Yetzer Hara. V'chein she'eno oveh mi yira v'nosham mi Yetzer Hara. And you're saved from your own Yetzer Hara. V'tani acharkat Shevuot sheyesh bo chomer yoter dichtiv lo yenakeh. And now comes Shavuos, which has an even more serious outcome of lo yenakeh. You will never be forgiven for mistreating your oaths. High time and is dazeh haolam, and that's why the world trembled. V'zeu eitzah al kol mitzvot nishbaim lekayem lezriruze. Why did God introduce the concept of oaths at Sinai? Why was this so important? Because it's a tool to enable you to do mitzvahs when you're a little shaky. You take an oath for yourself. I promise myself I will do the following. And that oath gives you energy and gives you power to be able to do what you've undertaken to do. It's an absolute commitment. The power of commitment using the words of oaths gives you the power of fulfillment. And that's a gift that Hashem gave us at Sinai. That's the mitzvah of Shavuot. שכבר נשבעו מהר סיני, and והזהירו זו לברר בלב עניין השבועה שמושבע ועומד. And we were told at Sinai, we took an oath. At Sinai, Hashem says, I don't want me to be the compelling force for the rest of generations. Yes, I am the compelling force. I'm giving you the Torah. But you're taking a voluntary shvuah. You're also swearing to keep the Torah. And when you think of breaking the Torah, don't only think of angering me. Think of breaking your promise. That's a terrible thing to break your promise. Every time you do something wrong, you're breaking the promise you gave me at Sinai. So Hashem gives us the concept of shvuah to enable us to serve Him properly. And therefore there have to be two kinds of shvuot. There's a shvuah, I will do the positive mitzvot, and I swear I will not do the negative mitzvot. Those are the shtayim. And then through that explains the Chidush HaArim, we extrapolate the other two, which is past, which you need in a Beis Din to clarify truth. Did you or didn't you do this? In the case of a sotah, did she or didn't she? So once we've got the idea of Shavuot for the future, which we need in order to be able to keep the Torah even under difficult circumstances, once the concept of Shvuah is in the world, we can use it retroactively to establish facts. So we use it both to assure facts in the future and to establish facts in the past. That's the Shavuot Shtayim Shehem Arba. That's the two Shavuot. So Shavuot is built into the Bria. You're dealing with something so foundational that it's built into the Bria. And that's why this is Seder Yeshuot, and that's why Shavuot is an important part of Seder Yeshuot. That's what's going on here, says the Chidush HaArim. Okay, so this blows my mind, and one can think about this for the next 49 days while we're learning Masechta Shavuos. What is it in terms of, what's the connection between this and the laws of Tumah? The Sefer HaChinuch says that these are two areas of halakha that are very difficult to keep. To watch your mouth, not to make oaths, and other laws of the mouth. The Sefer HaChinuch says this is not only for Shavuot, but to show you the severity of laws relating to the mouth. And Tumah also, to be careful of Tumah. We don't know that today because the laws of Tumah don't apply. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to have to be very careful. What we touch, who we're around, what we eat, where we walk, what we go, we're going to have to be very, very careful. And that care, that awareness of Tumah, and the awareness of what I'm talking about, go against the natural urge to be part of society. Tumah, the laws of Tumah are going to require us to watch who we interact with, to keep a distance from people, whereas society tries to envelop us. Watching your mouth, society wants you to talk, they want you to tell stories, they want you to gossip, they want a little bit of Lashon Hara from you occasionally, they want you to make an oath to be able to hold back and say, I don't do that, actually separates us from society. There's a level of insulation from the impact of society that these two sets of laws require. And that's why the Torah gave us a korban that is affordable, because it's so easy to break these laws. So the Torah says the Chinuch gives us a super affordable korban so that we can atone for it, because the Torah knows we're going to break these laws. That it gives us a method of dealing with it. That's why they're packaged together. These are laws. The power of the social pressure is so great to suck you into doing things you're going to regret later on, that this teaches us there's certain things, certain barriers we've got to place and keep a certain distance, both from physical society that we know and certainly from online society, which maybe is even more dangerous than physical society. And to understand that there's a korban oile v'yored for this. So we start Masechta Shavuos with a bit of an understanding of why it's where it is, why it follows from Masechet Makos, why it's in Seder Nezikin, which is called Seder Yeshuot, the section of Talmud that preserves us from the damage of social engagement, of potential damage from social engagement, and it explains to us the importance of how we do engage with society, protecting ourselves from doing things wrong with our mouths, or just doing things wrong by virtue of contact and connection, and therefore keeping ourselves, our neshamot, and our societies pure.